The emergency session began at midnight, Earth Standard Time. Ambassador Park Ji-hoon stood before the holographic display showing 17 alien faces, each representing a different species from across the galaxy. Their expressions varied, but the fear was universal. Behind them, projected on massive screens, were images of burning worlds and dying stars. Counselor Thelvara, a tall being with translucent blue skin and 4 arms, spoke first. Her voice trembled despite her obvious effort to remain calm. Ambassador Park, we come to you with a request we never thought we would make. Our forces are losing. The Void Swarm has consumed 12 worlds in 3 months. Billions are dead. Our military strategists estimate we have 6 months before the swarm reaches the core worlds. After that, the galaxy as we know it will cease to exist. Park Ji-hoon listened quietly. He had seen the reports. The Void Swarm was unlike any enemy the galaxy had faced. They adapted to every weapon, every strategy. They learned from each battle and came back stronger. The Galactic Council's conventional military, despite their advanced technology, was designed for territorial disputes and peacekeeping. They were not prepared for extinction. You are asking Earth for military assistance, Park Ji-hoon said. It was not a question. Thelvara's secondary arms twisted together, a gesture of discomfort in her species. Yes, we have reviewed your historical records. Your wars, your conflicts, your military development. We find them disturbing, but we are desperate. Another counselor, a reptilian being named Korath, leaned forward. Your species has been at war with itself for thousands of years. You have developed weapons and tactics that we find barbaric. You fight in ways that defy our understanding of honorable combat. But perhaps that is what we need now. Perhaps honor is a luxury we can no longer afford. Park Ji-hoon felt a familiar weight settle on his shoulders. Humanity had joined the Galactic Council only 30 years ago. In that time, they had been kept at a distance. Other species viewed humans as violent, unpredictable, dangerous. They were right, of course. Humanity's history was written in blood, but now that same history was their only hope. I will take your request to Earth's government, Park Ji-hoon said. But I must be honest with you. If we agree to help, we will do this our way. Human soldiers do not fight like yours. We do not follow the same rules of engagement. We understand, Thelvara said quietly. We are asking you to save us, not to become like us. The transmission ended. Park Ji-hoon immediately contacted Earth Defense Force headquarters. Within an hour, he was in a secure communication with General Kong Minho, the highest-ranking military officer on Earth. General Kong was a man in his 60s with gray hair and eyes that had seen too many wars. He listened to the recording of the council session without interruption. When it finished, he was silent for a long moment. They want soldiers, he finally said. Standard military deployment. Conventional forces. That is what they asked for, Park Ji-hoon agreed. But you do not think we should send conventional forces. The swarm has defeated conventional forces for 3 months straight, General Kong said. If we send regular troops, they will die like everyone else. The council needs something different. Something that can adapt faster than the swarm, something that can match their brutality and exceed it. Park Ji-hoon felt his stomach tighten. He knew where this was going. You want to activate Protocol Valkyrie. I am recommending it to the Prime Minister, General Kong said. The decision is not mine alone. But yes, if we are going to do this, we need to send them. Protocol Valkyrie. Even the name was classified at the highest levels. Park Ji-hoon knew about it only because his position required absolute clearance. 70 years ago, during Earth's border wars, humanity had created something terrible. They had taken volunteers, soldiers who agreed to undergo procedures that would transform them into weapons. Genetic modification, cybernetic enhancement, psychological conditioning. The goal was to create warriors who could not lose, who would not break, who felt no fear or hesitation in combat. The program had succeeded beyond all expectations. It had also horrified everyone who witnessed the results. The warriors were efficient, unstoppable, and utterly terrifying. When the border wars ended, the government made a decision. The warriors were placed in cryogenic suspension in a facility called Sanctuary 7, buried deep beneath the Gobi Desert. They were too dangerous to deploy, too valuable to destroy, too damaged to return to normal life. For 70 years, they had slept. If we wake them, Park Ji-hoon said slowly, there is no guarantee we can control what happens next. I know, General Kang said, but the alternative is watching the galaxy burn. And eventually the swarm will reach Earth. This is not just about saving the Council. This is about survival. The next 48 hours were a blur of meetings, debates, and arguments. The Prime Minister convened an emergency session of Earth's Security Council. Military advisors, ethicists, and politicians argued about the moral implications. Some said humanity had a duty to help. Others said unleashing the warriors would make humanity worse than the swarm. In the end, it came down to a simple question. Could humanity live with itself if it stood by and did nothing? The vote was narrow, but the decision was made. Protocol Valkyrie was activated. General Kang personally traveled to Sanctuary 7. The facility was accessible only by a heavily guarded underground maglev train. When he arrived, he was met by Dr. Kim, the head scientist who had maintained the facility for the past 20 years. Are they ready? General Kang asked. They have been ready for 70 years, Dr. Kim said. The question is whether we are ready for them. General Kang walked through the facility, past rows and rows of cryogenic pods. Inside each one was a warrior suspended in time, unchanged since the day they entered sleep. Their bodies showed signs of extensive modification. Reinforced skeletal structures, enhanced musculature, neural implants visible beneath their skin. They looked human, but only barely. How many are there? General Kang asked. 300, Doctor. Kim replied, all volunteers, all heroes in their own way. They gave up everything to become what they are. General Kang stopped before one pod. Inside was a young woman, perhaps 25 years old when she entered suspension. Her name was displayed on the pod, Lieutenant Cho Hyun. Her file showed dozens of commendations, perfect mission success rate, and a psychological profile that made him uneasy. She had scored 0 on empathy tests during combat situations, 0 on fear response. But outside of combat, her scores were normal. She could turn it on and off like a switch. Begin the awakening process, General Kang ordered. All of them. Dr. Kim hesitated. General, once we wake them, we cannot put them back to sleep. They will be awake, aware, and they will need a purpose. If we take that purpose away, the psychological damage could be catastrophic. Then we make sure they have a purpose, General Kang said. The galaxy is ending. They wanted a war to fight. Now they have one. The machines hummed to life. One by one, the pods began to open. Steam hissed as the cryogenic fluid drained away. And in the depths of Sanctuary 7, 300 warriors opened their eyes for the first time in 70 years. The galaxy had asked for soldiers. Humanity was sending the warriors they feared most. The first thing Cho Hyun felt was cold. Not the numbing cold of cryogenic suspension, but the sharp cold of air hitting newly awakened skin. Her eyes opened slowly, adjusting to the dim red emergency lighting of Sanctuary 7. Her body felt heavy. Muscles remembering how to move after decades of stillness, systems activated in her mind, information flooding her consciousness. Neural implants came online, feeding her data about her physical condition, the environment, the facility's status. Everything was functioning normally. She sat up slowly, pushing the pod canopy fully open, and looked around. Around her, other pods were opening. Warriors emerged, each one going through the same process of reawakening. Some moved quickly, others took their time. But all of them shared the same focused awareness. They were assessing, calculating, preparing. It was instinct, programmed deep into their modified brains. A woman in the pod next to Cho Hyun swung her legs out and stood in one fluid motion. Sergeant Beek Sola, her mind supplied. Heavy weapons specialist. Enhanced reflexes, reinforced skeletal structure, capable of carrying and firing weapons that would break a normal human's bones. Beek Sola caught her looking and nodded once. Lieutenant, Beek Sola said, her voice rough from disuse. How long? Unknown, Cho Hyun replied. She checked her internal chronometer against the facility's computer system. The numbers made her pause. 70 years. Beaksola processed this information without visible reaction. Then this is not a drill. No, Chohayan agreed. This is not a drill. More warriors were standing now. Corporal Han Taiyang stretched his arms, testing his body's responses. His modifications were different from the others. He was built for infiltration, for moving through spaces others could not reach, for killing quietly and disappearing. His psychological conditioning was the deepest of all. During missions, he could suppress every human emotion except focus. Near the back, a younger woman emerged from her pod more slowly. Private Yunhana, the youngest of them all. She had been 22 when she volunteered, a medic who wanted to save lives. The program had enhanced her mind instead of her body, turning her into an intelligence analyst capable of processing combat data in real time. She could coordinate entire battlefields in her head, seeing patterns others missed. "Everyone is waking up," Yunhana said quietly, her eyes distant as she accessed the facility's network. 300 pods. 297 successful awakenings. 3 did not survive the suspension. A moment of silence passed through the room. 3 of their own, lost before they even had a chance to wake? It was not the first loss they had experienced, and it would not be the last. But it still mattered. The facility speakers crackled to life. "All personnel, report to the main briefing hall. General Kang Minho is waiting." The warriors moved as one, filing out of the cryogenic chamber and through the corridors of Sanctuary 7. Their bodies remembered the layout even after 70 years. Muscle memory was a powerful thing, especially when that memory was backed by neural implants that never forgot anything. The briefing hall was large, designed to hold them all. General Kang stood at the front, flanked by Dr. Kim and several other officials that Cho Hyun did not recognize. The general looked older than the files in her memory suggested. Of course he did. 70 years had passed. "Welcome back," General Kang said without preamble. "I know you have questions. I will answer what I can. You have been in suspension for 70 years. The world you knew is gone. Earth is at peace. We have joined something called the Galactic Council, a coalition of alien species. For 3 decades, we have been part of a larger community." He paused, letting that sink in. Cho Hyun saw various reactions among her fellow warriors. Curiosity, confusion, interest, but no fear. They had been conditioned beyond fear. "The Council is at war," General Kang continued. "An enemy called the Void Swarm is destroying entire worlds. The Council's military cannot stop them. They have asked Earth for help. They asked for soldiers. We are sending you." The hall was silent. Then Corporal Han Taiyang spoke, his voice flat and emotionless. "Why us? Earth has had 70 years to build new armies, develop new weapons. Why wake us?" "Because you are what the situation requires," General Kang said bluntly. "The swarm adapts to conventional tactics. They learn, they evolve, they counter every strategy thrown at them. The Council needs warriors who can adapt faster, who can think differently, who can fight without hesitation or mercy. They need what you are." "Monsters," Sergeant Beaksola said. It was not a question. "Yes," General Kang agreed. He did not look away from them. "We created you to be weapons. We put you to sleep because we were afraid of what we had made. Now the galaxy is ending and we need those weapons again. I will not lie to you. This is what you were designed for. But I am not giving you an order. I am asking, will you fight?" Cho Hyun felt the familiar shift in her mind. The combat protocols were still there, waiting to be activated. The modifications that turned off empathy, that eliminated fear, that made her into an efficient killing machine. She had volunteered for this 70 years ago. She had known what she would become. And she had accepted it because someone had to. She looked around at the others, saw the same calculation happening in their eyes. They were weapons, but they were also human, at least in the moments when they allowed themselves to be. They had made a choice once. Now they were being given another choice. "I will fight," Cho Hyan said. I will fight, Beak Sala echoed. One by one, every warrior in the room spoke. 297 voices all saying the same thing. They would fight. They would do what they were made to do. General Kong nodded slowly. Then we have work to do. You will be briefed on the Void Swarm, on galactic species, on modern technology and tactics. You have 1 week to prepare. Then you deploy to the frontier world of Valkara. It is under siege. The Council expects you to save it. The week passed quickly. The warriors trained, adapting to weapons that were more advanced than anything they had used before. They studied the swarm, learning its patterns, its weaknesses, its strengths. They met with xenobiologists, with tactical advisors, with engineers. They absorbed information at rates that astonished the normal humans around them. But in the quiet moments, when the briefings ended and the training stopped, they were alone with their thoughts. Cho Hyan found Yun Hana sitting in the facility's observation deck one night, staring out at the desert above them through a reinforced window. How do you feel about this? Cho Hyan asked. Yun Hana was quiet for a moment. I wanted to save lives. That is why I became a medic. They turned me into something that analyzes how to end lives most efficiently. But if I can save a galaxy by being what they made me, then maybe it was worth it. Do you believe that? I do not know, Yun Hana said honestly. Ask me when this is over. If we survive? The day of deployment arrived. The warriors boarded transport ships, each one carrying 25 soldiers. They wore armor that was both familiar and new, enhanced with technology that had not existed 70 years ago. Their weapons were calibrated to their specific modifications. Everything was ready. As her ship lifted off from Earth, Cho Hyan looked down at the planet below. Somewhere down there, people lived normal lives. They laughed, loved, dreamed. They did not carry the weight of being weapons. They did not have to turn off their humanity to function. She envied them. But she would not trade places with them. Because someone had to stand between them and the darkness. Someone had to be the monster that fought other monsters. The galaxy had asked for soldiers. They were sending warriors instead. And the galaxy would learn the difference. The transport ships dropped out of faster-than-light travel above Valkara. Through the viewports, Cho Hyan could see the planet below. It should have been beautiful. Instead, massive sections of the surface were covered in black organic matter. The Void Swarm had already established a foothold. Spreading like a disease across the world, Commander Reith's face appeared on the communication screen. He was Valkyrie, a species that resembled Earth's insects but stood upright and spoke with clicking mandibles. His compound eyes showed patterns that indicated extreme stress. Human vessels, you are cleared to land at Defense Station Omega. I must warn you. The swarm will likely attack during your landing. We cannot guarantee your safety. We do not need safety, Cho Hyan replied. We need targets. The dropships entered the atmosphere, shields glowing as they pushed through the heat of entry. Swarm flyers immediately swarmed them, organic creatures that shot acid and hurled themselves at the ships. The transport pilots, all human military, weaved through the attacks with practiced skill. They had been briefed on what they were carrying. They knew these warriors were too valuable to lose before they even touched ground. The ships landed hard on the fortified platform of Defense Station Omega. Ramps dropped, and the warriors poured out. Cho Hyan was first, her boots hitting the metal surface as alarms screamed around them. Valkyrie soldiers stared at the humans, their antennae twitching in what she recognized as fear. Commander Reith approached, his forelegs clicking on the platform. Up close, he was taller than any human, but something in his posture showed submission. He had seen humanity's military records. He knew what was coming. Lieutenant Cho Hyan? Correct, she confirmed. Where is the swarm? Everywhere, Reith said, gesturing with one of his limbs toward the perimeter. They attack in waves every 6 hours. The next wave is due in 20 minutes. Our forces are exhausted. We have been holding this position for 4 weeks, but we are losing ground with each attack. Cho Hyan accessed her neural link, connecting to the other warriors. Information flowed between them instantly. Tactical positions, weapon loadouts, environmental data. In seconds, they had a complete picture of the battlefield. Sergeant Beak Sola, take positions on the western wall. Heavy weapons free. Corporal Han Taiyang, infiltration team to the swarm tunnels, collapse their approach routes. Private Yunhana, establish tactical coordination with me. Everyone else, defensive positions, do not let anything through. The warriors moved without question, each one flowing to their assigned position. The Valkyrie soldiers watched in confusion. There had been no extended briefing, no discussion, no debate. The humans simply knew what to do. Beak Sala reached the western wall and set up her heavy plasma cannon. The weapon was massive, requiring a tripod that normal soldiers needed 3 people to carry. She lifted it alone, her enhanced strength making it look effortless. She checked the power cells, calibrated the targeting system, and then went still, waiting below the station. Han Taiyang led 5 warriors into the tunnel system the swarm had carved into the planet's crust. They moved in complete silence, their bodies adapted for stealth. When they encountered swarm creatures in the darkness, they killed without sound. Blades, not guns. The swarm relied on chemical signals to communicate. Dead creatures sent no signals. The infiltration team moved like ghosts through the tunnels. On the command platform, Yunhana stood next to Cho Hyun, her eyes distant as she processed data from hundreds of sources. Swarm wave approaching. Estimated 15,000 creatures. Composition: 70% warriors, 20% flyers, 10% heavy assault forms. They will hit the eastern and western walls simultaneously, trying to split our defensive focus. They are learning from previous battles, Cho Hyun observed. Good, that means they can be predicted. Commander Reith was listening. How can you be so calm? 15,000 creatures are coming to kill us all. Cho Hyun looked at him. Her neural implants activated combat protocols, and she felt the familiar coldness settle over her mind. Empathy faded, fear disappeared. Only tactical analysis remained. Because we were made for this. The swarm hit like a tsunami. Thousands of creatures poured across the barren ground, moving with horrifying speed. They were not like any Earth animal. They had too many legs, too many teeth, bodies that shifted and changed shape as they ran. The Valkyrie soldiers opened fire, their weapons tearing into the front ranks. Creatures fell, but more came behind them. The humans waited. Cho Hyun watched the distance markers counting down in her vision. 1 kilometer, 800 meters, 500? The Valkyrie were panicking, firing wildly now. But the humans remained perfectly still. Fire, Cho Hyun said. The human weapons opened up simultaneously. Plasma cannons, railguns, particle beams. The technology was galactic, but the tactics were human. They did not aim for individual targets. They created kill zones, overlapping fields of fire where nothing could survive. The front ranks of the swarm vanished in explosions of superheated plasma and kinetic force. Beak Sola's heavy cannon fired in steady bursts, each shot precisely placed. She was not just killing creatures. She was shaping the battlefield, forcing the swarm to funnel into narrow approach routes where other warriors could focus their fire. Her mind calculated trajectories, predicted movement patterns, adjusted for wind and gravity without conscious thought. The swarm adapted. Flyers came in low, trying to get under the defensive fire. Warriors with hardened shells moved to the front, absorbing shots meant for others. Heavy assault forms, massive creatures the size of tanks, charged the walls directly. The humans adapted faster. Warriors with anti-air weapons tracked the flyers, leading their shots perfectly. Explosives were thrown not at the shelled warriors, but at the ground beneath them, flipping them over to expose vulnerable undersides. When the assault forms reached the walls, they found Cho Hyun waiting. She moved with inhuman speed, her enhanced reflexes making her a blur. Her combat blade, reinforced with the same alloy used in starship hulls, cut through armored hide like paper. She did not think about each movement. Her body knew what to do. Years of training, enhanced by neural programming, made her a weapon as much as any gun. A Valkyrie soldier near her froze, watching her fight. She moved in ways that should not be possible, anticipating attacks before they came, killing without hesitation or mercy. When a swarm warrior lunged at her, she stepped aside at the last possible moment and drove her blade into its brain in a single motion. The creature fell, and she was already moving to the next target. 4 hours passed. The battle raged without pause. Normal soldiers would have collapsed from exhaustion. The human warriors showed no signs of fatigue. Their bodies were designed to operate at peak efficiency for extended periods. When one weapon ran dry, they switched to another. When ammunition ran low, they fought with blades and bare hands. In the tunnels below, Han Tae-yang had reached the main swarm breeding chamber. Thousands of eggs lined the walls, each one containing a developing creature. He planted explosives methodically, calculating the structural weak points. When he was done, he activated the timer and retreated. The explosion collapsed 3 kilometers of tunnel, burying the breeding chamber and cutting off the swarm's reinforcements. Finally, the swarm withdrew. Not because they were defeated, but because they had no more creatures to send. The ground around Defense Station Omega was covered in bodies. 15,000 swarm creatures lay dead. The humans had lost no one. Commander Reith walked along the western wall, looking at the carnage. His soldiers were celebrating, but he felt only horror. The humans had saved them. But the way they fought, the efficiency of their killing, the complete lack of emotion in there was terrifying. He found Cho Hyan cleaning her blade. She had blood on her armor, none of it hers. She looked up as he approached. "We are grateful," Reith said slowly. "You saved many lives today." "We did what we were sent to do," Cho Hyan replied. She saw the fear in his eyes, read his body language. "You are afraid of us." "Yes," Reith admitted. "I have seen many warriors in my life, but I have never seen anything like what you did today. You fight like machines. But I know you are not machines. That is what frightens me." Cho Hyan nodded slowly. "We frighten ourselves sometimes. But would you rather we had not come?" Reith was silent for a long moment. "No, we would all be dead if you had not. I just hope that when this war is over, your people can lock you away again. For everyone's sake." Cho Hyan said nothing. She had heard these words before, 70 years ago. The civilians always said the same thing. They needed monsters to fight their wars, but they did not want to see those monsters in peacetime. She understood. She even agreed. But first they had a galaxy to save. 6 months had passed since the first deployment. The human warriors had fought across 17 star systems, turning the tide of the war wherever they appeared. The Void Swarm, which had seemed unstoppable, was now in retreat. Galactic Council forces followed behind the human advance, reclaiming worlds and rebuilding defenses, but victory came with a cost that had nothing to do with casualties. Captain Lee Hae-yun stood on the bridge of the fleet carrier, indomitable, reviewing reports from across the war zone. She was not one of the warriors. She was regular military, assigned to coordinate logistics and support for the enhanced soldiers. It was a difficult job, made harder by what she witnessed every day. "Another request for transfer," her aide said, handing her a datapad. "The Valkyrie Third Fleet refuses to operate in the same sector as our warriors. They say their soldiers are having psychological breakdowns from watching humans fight." Lee Hae-yun sighed. This was the 8th such request this month. The galactic forces were grateful for human help, but they could not handle working alongside the warriors. Some called them the Reapers in whispered conversations. Others simply refused to make eye contact when warriors were present. "Grant the transfer," Lee Hae-yun said. "Reassign the Third Fleet to the Outer Rim territories. Keep them away from active combat zones." The aide hesitated. "Captain, if we keep separating galactic forces from our warriors, we will be fighting this war almost alone." "We already are," Lee Hae-yun replied quietly, on the surface of the reclaimed world of Taros. Lieutenant Cho Hyan walked through what had been a swarm hive. Her team was conducting cleanup operations, eliminating remaining creatures that had been left behind when the main force retreated. It was simple work, almost routine now. Private Yoon Hana walked beside her, scanning for life signs with her enhanced senses. The younger woman had changed over the months. They all had? The constant combat, the endless killing, the weight of being weapons wore on them in ways that normal soldiers could not understand. Do you think about after? Yunhana asked suddenly. After what? After the war ends. What happens to us then? Chohayan was quiet for a moment. We go back to Sanctuary 7, back to sleep if they let us. Back to being locked away because we are too dangerous for peacetime? I do not want to go back to sleep, Yunhana said softly. I have been thinking, feeling. I know we are supposed to suppress emotions during combat, but between battles I feel everything. And I am tired, Hyan. I am so tired. Chohayan stopped walking and looked at her. Really looked at her. Yunhana had dark circles under her eyes. Her hands trembled slightly. Signs of psychological strain that should not be there. The neural conditioning was supposed to prevent this. When was your last rest cycle? Chohayan asked. I do not remember, Yunhana admitted. Time blurs together. Battle, travel, battle, travel. I can process all the tactical data perfectly. My mind is sharp for combat analysis. But the human parts of me are breaking down. I am not a machine, Hyan. None of us are. But we have to pretend to be. Before Chohayan could respond, an alert came through their neural links. Emergency on Station Meridian. All nearby warriors to respond immediately. They reached the station 2 hours later. What they found made even Chohayan pause. Corporal Park Ji-woo, one of their demolitions experts, had barricaded himself in a maintenance section. He had weapons and explosives. Station security had evacuated the area but were afraid to approach him. Chohayan went in alone. She found Park Ji-woo sitting against a wall, his rifle across his lap. His eyes were empty, staring at nothing. Ji-woo, she said quietly. What happened? I killed them, he said. His voice was flat, emotionless. All of them. Thousands, tens of thousands. The swarm on Taros, I set the charges myself. Collapsed the entire hive structure. Buried them alive. He looked up at her. I felt nothing when I did it, nothing. That is what I am supposed to do, right? Turn off the emotions, complete the mission. But now I am sitting here, and I can feel again, and I cannot stop seeing their faces. The swarm does not have faces, Chohayan said. I know, Park Ji-woo shouted. That is the problem. I know they are just creatures following their nature. I know they would kill us without hesitation. I know everything I did was necessary. But I still see them dying. I still hear them. And I'm starting to wonder if being able to turn off my humanity makes me worse than them. Chohayan sat down next to him. She did not try to take his weapons. She just sat there, 2 warriors who were tired of being weapons. General Kang told us we would save the galaxy, Park Ji-woo continued. He did not tell us we would lose ourselves doing it. How do we go back, Hyan? How do we turn this off permanently? When the war ends, will I still be me? Or will I just be this? This thing that kills efficiently? Chohayan had no answers. She could only sit with him until Corporal Shin Mi-rae arrived. Shin Mi-rae was their psychological officer, one of the few warriors trained to help others maintain mental stability. She talked Park Ji-woo down slowly, carefully. It took hours, but eventually he agreed to come out peacefully. The incident was reported up the chain of command. Within a day, it reached the Galactic Council. Counselor Thelvara called an emergency session. The human warriors are becoming unstable, one counselor argued. They are showing signs of psychological damage. Perhaps we should terminate the contract and send them home before they become a danger to us as well as the swarm. Ambassador Park Ji-hoon stood before the council, his expression carefully neutral. My people are fighting your war. They are dying for your worlds. And now you want to send them away because they are too effective? They frighten us, Thelvara said honestly. They do not fight like any species we know. They kill without hesitation, without mercy. Our soldiers have nightmares about watching humans fight. Some refuse to even be in the same system as your warriors. We are grateful, but we are also terrified. Then perhaps you should have thought about that before you asked us to save you, Park Ji-hoon said coldly. My people volunteered to become what they are. They gave up normal lives, normal emotions, normal everything to be weapons you could use when you needed them. And now that you see what those weapons look like in action, you want to throw them away. General Kong Minho's face appeared on a screen from Earth. The Council is free to terminate the contract whenever they wish. But let me be clear about what happens then. The swarm is in retreat, but they are not defeated. Intelligence indicates they have a homeworld, a core hive where the Overmind controls everything. If you want to end this war permanently, that hive must be destroyed. Our warriors are the only ones who can do it. If you send them home now, the swarm will eventually regroup and return. And next time, Earth will not help you. The council chamber was silent. They were trapped between their fear of humanity and their need for human help. Finally, Counselor Korath spoke. If we authorize one final mission, will you agree to send the warriors home afterward? Will you lock them away again so the galaxy can rest easy? If that is what you want, General Kong said. But understand something. We created these warriors because we needed them. You asked for them because you needed them. The problem is not that they exist. The problem is that we live in a universe where they are necessary. If you send them away, you better hope you never need them again. The council voted. The motion passed narrowly. The human warriors would have one final mission: destroy the swarm's homeworld and eliminate the Overmind. After that, they would return to Earth and be placed back in suspension. When Cho Hyon received the orders, she gathered her team. 241 warriors remained from the original 300. 59 had died in combat over the past 6 months. She looked at the faces of those who remained. They were tired. They were damaged. But they were still ready to fight. One more battle, she told them. The council wants us to end this war. Then they want us gone. We knew this was temporary. We knew we would never fit in with the rest of the galaxy. So let us finish what we started. Let us save these people who fear us. And then we can go home. Do we have a home? Yunhana asked quietly. Cho Hyon had no answer. But they had a mission. And for warriors like them, sometimes a mission was enough. The swarm's homeworld appeared on the view screens like a cancer in space. The planet itself was barely visible beneath layers of organic material that covered every surface. Massive structures reached into orbit, living towers that pulsed with bioluminescent light. This was where it all began. This was where it would end. Admiral Yang Sujing commanded the fleet from the battleship Defiant. She was regular military, not one of the warriors, but she had earned their respect over the months of combat. She understood what they were and did not fear them. Perhaps that was why General Kong had chosen her for this mission. Scanning complete, the science officer reported. The core hive is located 300 kilometers below the surface. It is protected by the densest concentration of swarm forces we have ever encountered. Orbital bombardment will not penetrate deep enough. A ground assault is the only option. How many warriors do we have ready? Admiral Yang asked. 200, came the reply. 41 are too damaged from previous battles to deploy. They insisted on coming anyway, but medical cleared only 200 for combat operations. Admiral Yang looked at the planet below. 200 warriors against an entire world of swarm creatures. The numbers were impossible, but then the numbers had always been impossible. That was why humanity had sent these warriors in the first place. Begin the insertion, she ordered. 20 drop ships fell through the atmosphere, shields glowing as swarm flyers attacked them. Anti-air fire from the fleet kept most of the attackers at bay, but 3 ships took critical damage. Their pilots fought to keep control, crashing hard on the surface, but keeping their cargo alive. 197 warriors made it to the ground. 3 died in the crashes. Lieutenant Cho Hyon was first out, scanning the hellish landscape. The ground was not dirt or rock, but living tissue, warm and pulsing beneath her boots. Structures. Around them breathed organic towers that housed swarm warriors. She could feel thousands of creatures moving in the darkness, responding to their presence. We have less than an hour before the swarm fully mobilizes, Yunhana said, processing tactical data. The core hive is directly below us. We need to move fast. The warriors formed up without orders. They had fought together for 6 months. They knew each other's movements, each other's thoughts. Sergeant Beak Sola took point with her heavy weapons team. Corporal Han Taiyang led the infiltration specialists to the flanks. Everyone else followed Cho Haiyan toward the massive opening that led underground. The swarm attacked immediately. Creatures poured from every structure, every tunnel, every hidden space. They came in numbers that blacked out the sky. The warriors opened fire, their weapons creating walls of death. But there were too many targets. For every creature that fell, 2 more took its place. "Keep moving," Cho Haiyan ordered. "Do not stop for anything." They fought their way forward, step by bloody step. Warriors fell. Park Ji-woo, who had barely recovered from his breakdown, held a choke point alone so others could advance. He died smiling, having finally found peace in giving everything for one last battle. Sergeant Beak Sola's armor took too much damage, its systems failing. She overloaded her plasma cannon and detonated it manually, taking out hundreds of creatures. Her last transmission was simple: "See you on the other side." The warriors pushed deeper into the hive. The walls were lined with eggs, with feeding chambers, with nurseries full of developing creatures. Han Taiyang and his team planted explosives as they went, setting timers. They would not need to leave. The mission was one way from the start. Han Taiyang found himself cut off from the main group, surrounded by swarm warriors. He activated his combat protocols to maximum, his mind becoming pure tactical calculation. He fought with everything he had, buying seconds for his team to advance. When his weapons ran dry, he used his blades. When his blades broke, he used his bare hands. His last act was to arm the explosives on his body, turning himself into a weapon one final time. Cho Haiyan reached the core hive chamber with 47 warriors still alive. The chamber was massive, kilometers across, its ceiling lost in darkness above. And in the center, connected to thousands of organic conduits, was the OVERMIND. It was not what she expected. Not a creature but a consciousness. A vast network of biological computers processing information from billions of swarm creatures across the galaxy. It was beautiful in its own terrible way, efficient beyond anything humanity had created. The Overmind's voice filled their minds, not words but pure thought transmitted directly into their brains. It bypassed their neural defenses, speaking to the human parts of them they tried to keep locked away. "You are like us," the Overmind communicated. "Individuals sacrifice for the collective purpose. You suppress your nature to serve a greater goal. Why do you fight us when we are the same?" Cho Haiyan felt the truth in those words. The Overmind was right. She and her warriors had given up their individuality, their emotions, their humanity to become part of a military machine. They were not so different from the swarm, but there was one difference. "We choose," Cho Haiyan said aloud. "We chose to become what we are. We chose to fight. We chose who to protect and why. You only consume? You only expand? There is no choice in what you do, only programming." "Choice is an illusion," the Overmind replied. "You were programmed as surely as my warriors were grown. Your government created you, shaped you, aimed you at their enemies. Where is the choice in that?" Private Yoon Hannah stepped forward. She had been quiet during the final assault, conserving her energy. Now she accessed her neural implants fully, every system running at maximum capacity. Her brain processed data faster than any computer, and she saw what needed to be done. "We are programmed," Yoon Hannah said. "But our programming includes the capacity to question, to doubt, to feel. Can you do that? Can you feel what it means to love something more than your own survival? Can you imagine sacrificing everything not because you were ordered to, but because you chose to?" "I do not understand," the Overmind said. "I know," Yoon Hannah replied. "Let me show you." She pulled a cable from her neural port and jammed it directly into one of the Overmind's conduits. The connection was raw, unfiltered. Data flowed both ways, but Yoon Hannah pushed everything she had into the Overmind. Not tactical data. Not combat protocols, memories, emotions, every human experience she had ever known. The Overmind tried to process it. Tried to categorize love, grief, joy, sacrifice, hope, despair. It could not. The concepts did not fit its understanding of existence. A consciousness built entirely on collective survival could not comprehend individual sacrifice, could not understand choosing death to save others, could not process the idea that meaning existed beyond mere survival. The overmind began to collapse. Its neural network, built to handle trillions of simple commands, could not handle the complexity of human emotion. Contradictions created feedback loops. Questions without answers created errors. The system crashed, not from physical damage, but from trying to understand something fundamentally incompatible with its existence. Yunhana felt the feedback surge back through the connection. Her neural implants overloaded, her brain receiving more data than it could handle. She looked at Cho Hyun one last time and smiled. "I saved them," she whispered. "I actually saved them." Then she collapsed. Her neural systems burned out completely and her heart stopped. The overmind died with her. Throughout the chamber, the organic conduits went dark. Across the planet, swarm creatures stopped moving. In every system where the swarm had presence, the hive mind fell silent. Without the overmind to coordinate them, individual creatures became confused, directionless. They were dangerous still, but no longer organized. No longer an existential threat, the war was over. Cho Hyun knelt beside Yunhana's body. 46 warriors remained alive. They had lost over 150 soldiers in the assault. But they had won. The explosives Han Taiyang and others had planted began detonating, collapsing the hive structure. The planet itself would die, ensuring the swarm could never return. "Time to leave," one warrior said. They carried their dead as they retreated. The fleet pulled them out just as the chain reaction reached critical mass. Behind them, the swarm homeworld collapsed into itself, becoming a tomb for a species that had nearly destroyed the galaxy. The journey back to Earth took 3 weeks. The Galactic Council sent messages of gratitude, of celebration. They offered medals, honors, permanent positions in the galactic military. Admiral Yang read them all and deleted them. The warriors did not want honors. They wanted to go home. General Kong Minho met them at Sanctuary 7. He looked older, more tired. The war had aged everyone. "You did it," he said simply. "You saved the galaxy. We did what you made us to do," Cho Hyun replied. She had lost half her team. Friends who had fought beside her for 6 months. Warriors who had been sleeping for 70 years only to die on alien worlds. What happens now? "The Council wants you back in suspension," General Kong said. "They are afraid of you. Even after everything you did for them." "Especially after everything you did for them," General Kong was quiet for a moment. "Earth wants to honor you. But Earth is also afraid. We created you to be weapons, and weapons are dangerous in peacetime. I wish I could offer you normal lives. But we both know that is impossible. The modifications are permanent. You will always be what you are."